We are. Well, thank you so much for coming to listen. Who was at the last meeting? A few of you. Okay, I didn't scare you away then, that's good. Yeah, we are living in incredible times. I'm personally very excited actually about the times in which we live, because God is going to show himself strong to all of those who choose to follow him. You know, Jesus said, those who, he said, I came to testify to the truth. This is what Jesus said, I came to testify to the truth. And all those who are on the side of truth, listen to my voice. You know, don't we need truth today more than ever before? You know, we really can't trust in the voices coming from the mainstream media. We know that. I think we're all awake in this room. So the fact that we've been duped, we've been lied to, we've been deceived, but there's got to be truth, hasn't there? There's got to be truth in the world. Mm-hmm. It can't just all be a scam. It can't all be a lie. In the same way that we find good people on the earth, people that are truthful, people of integrity, there's got to be truth. You know, God is truth. Jesus said, I am the truth. I am the way. I am the life. And, you know, if we can be bold enough to open our hearts, to open the door of our hearts and say, okay, Jesus, if you're real, come in, you can do it. You know, the Bible says that if we search for God with all of our hearts, we will find him. And we will find him not in a religious way, not in a way where we feel obliged to do all kinds of rituals and abide by regulations and think that we've got to stop doing this and that. I speak to people sometimes on the streets and they say, well, if I become a Christian, I've got to stop doing this and I've got to stop doing that. And I think it's got nothing to do with stopping to do things. It's to do with starting to do stuff, great stuff, you know, living a life that God destined for us to live, a life that is full of hope in a world of absolute hopelessness. A world of trauma, a world of darkness. He brings his light and he wants us to be those people who bring the light in the darkness. And I think that is an incredible time. And you know, we are actually the biggest threat to the global order on the planet. Little old us, we're just, you know, the biggest threat. And they do fear those who are awake. They fear more the church, and that's why they shut the church down. That's why communism always shuts the church down. If you look at China, you look at North Korea, you look at, or even Islam, you look at communism always shuts the church down because it is a power that China as well that has the power to overthrow that order, and so that's why they did all that in the lockdowns. The church was shut down. And for the first time, really, people stopped worshipping, they stopped praying in church, and that allowed for darkness to really come in a bigger measure than it has done in a very long time. So yeah, I wrote Trumpet Blast Warning, published it in 2014 after, I'll just very briefly, because I know some of you have already heard my story, but I was really seeking to know God more, and he gave me just a dramatic vision, took me into the heavens. It was as real as any waking moment, and he told me to write a letter to the Queen, to David Cameron, and to Gordon Brown, who was the Prime Minister at the time, and just told them, just to tell them that God knows what's going on behind closed doors, and that trouble was coming. And then shortly after that, God said, okay, You've sent the letter to these global leaders, these high-level leaders. Now, I want you to write a message for the world, for the people. And I just got a few quotes from my book, which now, in light of everything that's happened, is more relevant than ever before. Here's one quote: "The nations will be duped in a massive end-time deception, both through the media and pharmaceutical drugs. Television presents a world of illusion. It is not a window onto reality, it is a window onto what people want us to see. The accuracy of Bible predictions is confirmed. In a drugged-up stupor, the American populace, along with the rest of the planet, will sacrifice its freedoms to follow the Antichrist system." This is what we're seeing, and I find this absolutely incredible, this book, because, written a long time ago, it's more relevant now than ever before. Yes, it's got the words of life, it's also got words of prophecy in it, which are being fulfilled in our day in a way that I have never seen, and it is accelerating. It really is accelerating. We were in Italy for 4 years. God spoke to us and told us to go and start a church there, and we were there right in the heart of the tyranny that was rolled out. It was particularly intense in Italy, to the point that we were blocked from everything except the grocery store and the pharmacy. And we were actually meeting with people, big meetings, in the night time, to discuss what are we going to do when we're blocked from the grocery store. We couldn't even leave the island, couldn't even get a boat to leave the island. One guy from our church, he managed to get a private vessel across, and he was detained by the police and swiftly sent back. It was a crazy time. Couldn't believe that on a small island you need to get access to the mainland regularly, but they completely blocked it. The region head said on television that he would like to flamethrower the unvaccinated. He got away with that. Absolutely unbelievable times that we were living. We eventually got sick with the virus, and which gave us 6 months immunity pass. God said that he was going to get us off the island. And I said to Ursula, my wife, I said, God is going to get us off the island like when he opened the Red Sea for Moses. And we didn't know how it was going to happen. People were saying that, they're having messages from God saying that we're supposed to come back to the UK. And it was impossible at the time, totally impossible. But I've never seen anything like it in all my life. If you didn't have a QR code, you couldn't go anywhere. You could not participate in life. As I say, the only thing you could do was go to the pharmacy or the grocery store, and people were getting really agitated, really worried about what was coming next. And it was the closest thing, really, that I'd seen to the prophecy of John the Apostle, who talked about the mark of the beast. Unless you have the mark, you can't buy or sell. This book is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. I love it. I love it more now than ever before. Apart from the fact that it's full of prophecy, it's full of the words of God that bring incredible comfort. It's not just the book of, Psalms is not just a book of poetry. God wants to give us a revelation. People seek for supernatural manifestations or a connection with the divine. Just turn to this and open the door of your heart, and God will come in such a dramatic way. He's done it for me so many times. And if you're ever desperate, like I do sometimes, just call out to Jesus, say, "Jesus, help me." And it comes. He's done it to me so many times. When something's happening, I feel the heaviness of this world coming upon me. So this is an incredible book. We were just reading this morning in a meeting that I did this morning, Psalm 46, that God is our refuge, an ever-present help in times of trouble. We will not fear, even though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, because God is with us. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, Psalm 23, I will fear no evil. I will fear no evil, because you are with me. And he prepares a table in the presence of our enemies, like a feast. You know, we're all feasting, we're all happy, we're all jolly. Well, that is what we can have in the face of absolute evil and tyranny all around us, because God is our refuge. And this is the revelation that we must get this as times get harder, because the last 2 years has been a kind of a trial run in many ways, and I believe that we are heading for even harder times. And we've got to get a revelation of who God is. We've got to get a revelation. You know, the Bible says that hearts will fail through fear at what is coming upon the earth. That's those who don't know God. That's those who don't have a revelation of who God is. We can be completely secure in God without absolutely anything to fear. Not even the fear of death bothers us. Because really, that's really what fear is, isn't it? Ultimately, it's the fear of death. It's the fear of dying. But the Bible says, where, O death, is your sting? Where, O death, is your victory? Death is defeated at the cross of Jesus Christ. If we give our lives to God, if we open the door of our heart, we've got absolutely nothing to fear. Death becomes the doorway. Actually becomes the great moment in our lives, you know, where we're actually going to pass from this life into the next, and all tyranny will be gone and done away with forever. You know, it talks about the Antichrist, and the false prophet will be thrown into the lake of fire. And all those who did evil, all of those who did wickedly. And if we're frustrated at the evil that's happening around the world, and we think there's no justice, you know, everyone's talking about Nuremberg too. I don't think it can happen. Doesn't matter, because God is God of justice. He will not only deliver us, he will judge the wicked. They won't get away with it. I pray that some of the wicked will turn to God. I think it's an incredibly hard thing for them to do. I can't see it personally, but I hope. I don't wish for anyone to be thrown into the lake of fire. But this is the reality for the wicked, for those who have done unjustly, those who have committed genocide, those who have been deceitful and have lied to the nations. This is the answer. This is they will pay for their crimes. So we can rest assured in God that he's going to wipe away every tear. You know, the Bible says there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth in hell, but in paradise he will wipe away every tear from our eyes. There will be no more grief, there'll be no more mourning. All of that will be gone away and done away forever. Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing that this world is just a fraction in eternity? You know, we've got this short life here, but God wants to take us into eternity with him. And he's calling out to us in this day. And he says, you know, if you hear my voice, don't harden your hearts. But this book, an incredible book. Now, I just wanted to go through some of the signs, really, some of the signs that I've looked at over the period of time since God woke me up. Because I was asleep before 2009. I just kind of believed I was going with everyone else. I just didn't think much of it. I thought our politicians would tell the truth. I didn't know our mainstream media was lying to us. I just kind of didn't think really anything of it until God woke me up. And I just said to God, what's on your mind? That's really what I asked God. I said, God, what is on your mind? I want to know what's on your mind. And I thought he was just going to tell me something nice like, I love you. And he gave me this big revelation. I'm like, okay. And now tell the world. Deception. Just want to look briefly at deception. The Bible prophesies in the last days, the inhabitants of the earth, the entire inhabitants of the earth will be deceived. Revelation 13:14 says, Satan deceived the inhabitants of the earth. 2 Thessalonians explains that in the end of days, people will be deceived because they refused to love the truth. Can't we see that all around us? Mm-hmm. People, they refuse. They're refusing the truth. They don't want it. They want to live in the lie. They don't want to go beyond what they've been told. They get very angry. They get very agitated. This is being fulfilled in our day. But it says, because they refuse to love the truth, they will live under a powerful delusion. But it's like there's nothing that can wake these people up, is there? It's like it's only going to be a divine moment for some of those people. You know, they're going to have to meet God right there and then. They will live under a powerful delusion. And one of the ways, or probably the main way this is happening, is through the mainstream media today, through the television. Now, John the Apostle, who said that the whole world will be deceived, he had no idea about the mainstream media and its power. But today, this is being fulfilled through the television. We are living in this day. You know, Adolf Hitler, he saw the power of television. You know, and in the ruins of Berlin, they actually uncovered a plan for cable television right back in those days, and he wanted to have cable TV all over. Of course, they had the Nazi radio station. But this is the power of television. And no one really has had this power up until now to completely control the world through the media. And as we know, there are only a few media outlets, and they're all saying the same thing. Hitler said, by skillful and sustained use of propaganda, one can make a people see heaven as hell, or a most wretched life as paradise. I think that really, for me, it's the last 2 years, isn't it? A wretched life, and people thinking like it's okay, it's normal, this is normal, this is okay. People have been, you know, locked down, people have been masked up, people have been, you know, guilt tripped into taking a medical procedure. You name it, and it's like this has become normal. It's become like a normal experience for so many people. This is the power of propaganda. His propaganda minister said, never lose sight of the fundamental principle of all propaganda, the constant repetition of the most effective arguments. Propaganda means repetition. I keep digging it into my people over and over until even the densest has got it. That's that repetition constantly through the mainstream media, totally brainwashing the people until they just do exactly what they say. I remember years ago when 9/11 happened, and they just kept repeating the planes going into the building. I don't know whether you remember it. In the end, it's when we had a television. We don't have it anymore, and it just kept going in to the building time and time again, and we just couldn't handle it anymore. So this is weird. It's like, what are they trying to do here? I mean, it was just a constant repetition of the plane going in, and that was like a sign even back then that, you know, something was amiss. Repetition. And this is the deception that is prophesied in the Bible. The whole world will be deceived. And of course, Hitler wrote 2 chapters in his book on propaganda. This is how powerful propaganda is. Edward Bernays, who's the father of public relations, it used to be propaganda until it got negative connotations, turned it into the name public relations. He said this: if we understand the mechanism and motives of the group mind, is it not possible to control and regiment the masses according to our will without their knowing about it? The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organised habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our government. We are governed, our minds moulded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested largely by men we have never heard of. And again, he said, in almost every act of our daily lives, whether in the sphere of politics or business, in our social conduct or our ethical thinking, we are dominated by the relatively small number of persons who understand the mental processes and social patterns of the masses. It is they who pull the wires which control the public mind. It's all conspiracy theory, isn't it? They just come out and say it. It's all there in plain sight. But if you try and explain this to anybody, it's all conspiracy theory. If you type in New World Order, I think Wikipedia is the first page you get. This is a conspiracy theory. even on the mainstream news, they talk about the Great Reset as a conspiracy theory. Like, go to the website, read all the information, watch all the videos they've got on there. I mean, how much of this is a conspiracy theory? But they convince people, even in the soaps, they got characters. I don't watch any of the soaps, they don't have a TV. Wouldn't waste my time watching any of that rubbish. But they condition people, not just in the news, it's through everything. And so they got people talking about the vaccine, and they got conspiracy theorists who are trying to wake people up, and they just, they degrade them, and they're stupid people, And of course, so when any of us start to try and talk to anyone, they say, oh, you're one of those, totally conditioned, just like Edward Bernays says. And this is the fight that we've got. And really, it's a spiritual battle. It's a war in spirit. And we can't get away from that. It's not a physical battle. The Bible says that we fight not against flesh and blood, but we fight against principalities and powers. Fight against principalities and powers in the heavenly realm. And it is a spiritual thing. Really, it's only the light of God through Jesus Christ that's actually going to wake people up. It's going to wake people up. And a lot of churches, sadly, are asleep. It's shocking. To me, that was one of the biggest things that shocked me. Disappointed me greatly. I was so shocked. I was so upset. I felt personally hurt. It was so disappointing. It's like the people who know the truth, totally asleep. But we can pray. We can pray and ask God to wake up our family and our friends, to wake up these people and believe that God can do it. People have been conditioned to believe that propaganda is something relating to, other nations, something that Russia does or China does, but of course not the United Kingdom. We don't propagandise anybody, or it's something it's reserved for the Second World War or something like that, But it's not something that really happens today. But the BBC. You probably all know this, is in receipt of funds from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And they are one of the top 10 donors. Actually, this is from the BBC website. Significant donors included the UK Foreign and Commonwealth Office, the UK Department for International Development, the European Union, several UN agencies, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and many others. Clearly, it's not going to be balanced reporting. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation actually have funded and been on helping to create television series for the BBC. So think about that conditioning that goes in. We don't even notice a lot of it. We don't even see it happening. And this is how they do it. This is how they condition and deceive people. But it's all prophesied in the Bible, and this is how they're managing to do it. And apart from that, the television itself, we know, don't we? It's just the technology of television. It's a brainwashing device. Our brains, have waves, and beta waves is logical thought. Turn on that TV, and suddenly it moves it into alpha waves, where we kind of our minds are now being suggested. We get hypnotised. That's why a lot of times, I used to do it years ago, fall asleep in front of the TV. Why? Because that's what's happening. And then you try to go to bed later, you can't sleep. This is the power that television has, and because you're in that suggestive state, anything can be suggested to you. A powerful delusion that's spoken of in the Bible is deceiving the masses through the medium of television. And it's all being prophesied. 2 Thessalonians 2, I'll just read this. 2 Thessalonians 2, 9-12, the coming of the lawless one will be in accordance with how Satan works. The coming of the lawless one is the Antichrist, or the Antichrist system. Totally lawless, totally without God, totally evil, wicked to the core. He will use all sorts of displays of power through signs and wonders that serve the lie, and all the ways that wickedness deceives those who are perishing. See, there are people that are perishing because they refuse to love the truth. They're getting more and more deceived. There is a chance, there is hope for people to come out of it. But the deeper they get in, the harder it is. He says they perish because they refuse to love the truth and so be saved. For this reason, God sends them a powerful delusion so that they will believe the lie, and so that all will be condemned who have not believed the truth but have delighted in wickedness. It's like God says, well, you love the lie so much, have it. There you go. And this is where we are at. Jesus said, everyone who's on the side of truth listens to me. I came to testify to the truth. We need truth like never ever before, because we've lost the compass. It's all gone. It's all gone awry, isn't it? Nobody knows what truth is anymore, and we're certainly not going to get it from the television. You know, I've got this vision to see people smashing up their TVs. Actually, there was a movie years ago. What was the movie called? Can't remember now. I think they just threw their TVs out the window or something. But I just love to see that happen all over the nation. People just smashing. Huh? Network. Yeah, just smashing their TVs up. You know, I've got a particular hate for the television. But Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. You know, it's important today to know that people have been conditioned to believe the lie. Signed to, got big pharma, Revelation 18:23, for by your sorcery all the nations were deceived. And that word sorcery we all know by now, maybe some of you don't, but the actual word in Greek is pharmakeia, where we get the word pharmaceutical from. The whole world would be deceived by pharmaceuticals. When on earth has that ever happened in the history of the world? It's happening right now. I know that Big Pharma's been deceiving the world for a long time, but on the scale that it has been deceived and manipulated and people have been forced into this is off the chart. This is off the chart, and this is a prophecy being fulfilled in our day. You know, never has our world been so... it's never been so blatant as it is now. You know, they all came out, didn't they? The Queen, the Pope, the Archbishop of Canterbury. It's selfish, it's immoral, you need to take the vaccine. We never had that, ever. Absolutely incredible. Even some church ministers said that Jesus would have taken the vaccine. Jesus the healer, the one who touched the lepers, the one who touched the leper, you know. He didn't care. Probably after he touched the leper and healed him, he probably touched one of his disciples. He wasn't thinking about, you know, being terrified of killing Granny. That's unbelievable. Jesus would have taken a vaccine. I mean, the healer, the Son of God. How ridiculous. Of course, Jesus prophesied about viruses in the end, didn't he? He also prophesied about viruses, famines, pestilence and war. It's all in the Bible. One world government. Revelation 13:7, an authority was given him over every tribe, tongue and nation. You know, how on earth is authority given to these people? You have to bow down to Satan. You have to actually bow down to Satan. You know, because if you know the story, when Jesus was in the desert, he was in the wilderness, and the devil actually came to Jesus. He said, I'll give you the whole world, I'll give you all the nations of the world. All you need to do is bow down to me. Jesus refused. In fact, Jesus actually ultimately has all the nations of the world anyway. But Satan is the god of this world. That's what the Bible says. You know, a lot of people blame God for everything that's happening in the world. They don't blame Satan, or they don't blame themselves. You know, blame God, who is holy, who is just, who is pure. But Satan is the god of this world, and it says he's blinded the minds of unbelievers so they cannot know the gospel. Did you know that? That's what it actually says. They cannot know the truth of the gospel. Satan has blinded the minds of unbelievers because he is the god of this world. And these people at the top have bowed down. They've actually bowed down to Satan. You're probably all aware of Bohemian Grove and the crazy weekend that they do. I actually met a guy once that visited Bohemian Grove. I was talking at an event, and he was giving me a lift to Gatwick Airport after the event, and we were flying off to do a mission in Italy. And he said, oh, by the way, so I didn't want to say anything during your message. I thought it'd be a bit of a red herring, but I've been to Bohemian Grove. I was like, what? Yeah, apparently he was invited, and he said he didn't stay for the weekend, thankfully. But there they are. It's big stone owl. It just looks like sounds like something unreal. You think, what is going on? But they have to bow down. They have to bow down to Satan to receive this power. So authority was given him over every tribe, tongue, and nation. This authority is now global in a way that it's never been before. It's never been. We've seen it on a smaller scale, but now we're seeing it, and they're coming out. They're bold now. I think they know how dumbed down so many people are. They can actually come out and be much more aggressive, much more bold, and they know that they can just say whatever they want and people believe it. So they can be doing this over here. You go to the British government website, you can download that augmented reality document, and it's all in there. All of the information is in there for anyone to read. Many people believe that we're sovereign nations, but that's all over. There is a centralised authority today. This is all prophesied in the Bible. Democracy doesn't exist. It's a facade to give us the idea that somehow we are in control of our own destiny, the destiny of the nation. Let's vote this party, let's vote that party. But the World Economic Forum is a manifestation of the Antichrist system prophesied in the Bible. I've got absolutely no doubt about that. Revelation 6:8, and I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed him, and power was given unto them over a fourth part of the earth to kill with sword, and with hunger, and with death. Depopulation is actually in the Bible. Depopulation is in the Bible. And COVID-19 has accelerated that plan. In that Ministry of Defence document on human augmentation, it actually says that by 2045 there will be a global acceptance of human augmentation, which is called transhumanism, through a universal vaccine for all diseases. It's on the British government website. It discusses enhanced DNA modification, all a conspiracy theory, but that's what it talks about, and brain implants. And we know, of course, Elon Musk, his brain implant, his Neuralink, the ability to talk to people without you even opening your mouth. You can just sort of, person to person. It's incredible what's happening. People are totally dumbed down, totally asleep. And the future will be the people who accept this, they won't actually be creations of God, because they would have had their DNA manipulated. They will be creations of this system of the beast, this antichrist system. Sign 4, cashless society. Again, as I said, COVID-19 has accelerated all of that. The ATM machines being removed, the banks all closing down. Of course, the money is dirty. We can't use paper money anymore. We have to, get rid of the cash. And we know that once you get rid of the cash, they've got total control. Revelation 13:16-17, it's all prophesied. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark. Revelation 14:9-10, if anyone worships the beast in his image and receives his mark on his forehead or on his hand, he himself shall also drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out full strength into the cup of his indignation. He shall be tormented with fire and brimstone. There's a big warning there not to take the mark of the beast. And why not? You might think, well, that's a bit unfair. But Jesus actually said you can't serve two masters. You're going to love one or hate the other. This is about loving money, loving our comforts, loving our security, being with government or being with God. We can't choose one, or we can't have both. We can't sit on the fence. Jesus said, I'd rather you be hot or cold, but don't be lukewarm. And this is about serving God. Are we going to serve government or are we going to serve God? And you can't, if you're serving one, you can't serve the other. If you're loving one, you hate the other. This is what the Bible says. You know, I've been saying for a while that they're following the Bible like it's their, you know, it's like their playbook. And I'm like, this is crazy. You know, it's like they pick up the book. I've joked about it actually a few times. I said, you know, it's almost like Klaus Schwab is sitting there and he's going through Revelation. Right, okay, what should we do? We'll do that today. We'll enact that today. That's what it feels like. And I recently met a man who was a satanic ritual abuse survivor, and from birth he was taken by what he said was the global elite, was the term that he used, and he was taught all kinds of things and programmed to be an assassin, programmed to round people up when the time came for the New World Order, and taught that the Bible, if he ever touched it, he would burn him. And he was programmed to not even be able to read the Bible. It's taken him a long time. He's just become a Christian. And it's taken him a long time to actually be able to read the Bible. I don't know how they did it, but he turned to the Bible and it was like it was blank pages. Could not read it. And but he said something to me. He said, you know, that the people there that were programming him, they actually are using the Bible as their blueprint for the world takeover. And I thought, wow, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? You know, the World Economic Forum obviously was founded by Klaus Schwab. He looks and sounds like a James Bond villain, doesn't he? Isn't that amazing? You think it's a movie. And it makes you think, you know, we've been conditioned over all these years to kind of accept this kind of stuff happening. And of course he wrote the book, COVID-19, The Great Reset, published just months into the pandemic. That was incredible, wasn't it? Imagine writing a big fat book like that so quickly and getting it all published in time. But he said, and we all know this quote, the pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine and reset our world. You know, they want a world of AI, don't they? Where they can reduce the global population, don't need as many workers. You know, Yuval Noah Harari, he's a long-time advisor to Klaus Schwab. He said, we just don't need the vast majority of the population. Technology will make it possible to replace people. You know, they want a population, don't they, under 500 million if we're going to follow what's written on the Georgia Guidestones, which don't exist anymore. They seem to have destroyed the evidence. The World Economic Forum, they have basically gone into all of the governments. You know, they sent out a copy of COVID-19, The Great Reset, to all of the governments. And Klaus Schwab said this, Merkel, Vladimir Putin have all been young global leaders of the World Economic Forum, but what we are very proud of now is the young generation like Prime Minister Trudeau and the President of Argentina and so on, that we penetrated the cabinets. We penetrate the cabinets. Yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that more than half of his cabinet are for the young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. It's true in Argentina and it's true in France now. We're not living in a sovereign nations anymore. It's one global order, the Great Reset, as prophesied in the Bible, that there would be this control over the whole planet. And of course COVID-19 has provided the perfect opportunity for the Great Reset, and it mirrors precisely what is in the book of Revelation, the control of the global population, you know, the bioweapon created in a lab, and then to use a bioweapon to cure the people from the bioweapon, you know. And we know, don't we, Bill Gates actually stated in a TED talk, I've got a feeling that this video is going to be deleted off my YouTube, which always happens. I did a talk in Bowling some months ago, and I put the first session up. I thought I'd been quite good in it actually, and it was within an hour I got 3 strikes and was blocked from uploading. I think they deleted both. But he said in a TED talk, if we do I find this amazing, you know, we kind of said this to people, haven't we? Have you seen what Bill Gates said about, you know, depopulation? And people just look at you blankly like, oh, he didn't say that. Yeah, but can't you see his lips moving? See his lips right there. Well, he didn't actually mean that. If we do a really good job with vaccines, we can lower the global population by 10 to 15%. How else can you read that? How else can you hear that? I think people really don't believe that mankind can be so wicked. But when we know God and we know His righteousness, we know the holiness of God, and we've read the Bible and we understand wickedness, we understand sin, we understand how people can be so wicked, then we can believe it. I think that's one of the reasons why people couldn't believe that 9/11 was an inside job. How could the government kill so many people? But when we understand how depraved these people, their consciences are seared, that's what the Bible says, their consciences are actually seared. Sign 5, love of self. Matthew 24:12, Christ said, because of the multiplication of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold, but the one who perseveres to the end will be saved. Can we see that over this whole COVID thing with all the restrictions? The love of most growing cold, people hating each other, people just listening to everything the government said and just becoming quite horrible. Disassociating with people, segregating, which is all part of their plan to bring control, destroy the community, destroy the family unit, which is why it's so vital in this day that people come together in community with God. The book of Acts is an incredible model. The church actually is a very powerful community where they all function together. They did life together. They didn't go to a building and just do an hour of worship and rituals and regulations. They actually lived together. They loved one another. They were in community together. And this is another way that we must live like this for the future. If we're going to survive, we've got to survive in Christian community, where we actually love one another as brothers and sisters. That's what the Apostle Paul, he talked about this all the way through the New Testament. Brothers and sisters, that's how he would talk. Brothers and sisters in Christ. We've really got to do this. Paul the Apostle also said that many would be offended. Well, that's a prophecy fulfilled, isn't it? Many will be offended. My goodness me, you can't say anything today without someone being offended. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of the good, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. It's all happening now. It's all happening now. And of course they're using problem, reaction, solution, aren't they, to get their results. Fear, 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 fear. Rahm Emanuel, you never let a crisis go to waste. You can do things you could not do before. We've got to break the power of fear in this day. We've got to break the power of fear. Talking about it this morning. It's the only way we're going to survive the enslaving power of government. We can protest, we can do all this, we can do all that, but at the end of the day, we've got to deal with the heart issue. We've got to deal right in here, and we've got to be secure in God. We can only do that if we come to Him, if we open our hearts. What could be coming next? We don't know, do we? War? Maybe war could be coming next. We've been terrorised at our fuel bills. Can we pay them £6,500 a year? It's all in the media, just to control and to oppress and to bring fear. We've got to turn to God. We've got to turn to God as this great reset is enacted, which, by the way, we know, don't we, that King Charles is right at the heart of this. With the death of the Queen, King Charles has got a lot more power at his fingertips. And actually, if you go to the Prince of Wales website, still called the Prince of Wales website, June 2020, when it was all happening, the Prince of Wales launched a new global initiative, the Great Reset. It's all there, and it will be accelerated. So we're going to see, it's going to be a bumpy ride. It's going to be a bumpy ride, and I'm wondering what is going to happen next. But the whole world has been conditioned to be ready for something much bigger than COVID, much bigger. Finally, sign 6, persecution of believers. Jesus said it in Matthew 24. In fact, if you go to Matthew 24, it's a good chapter on, because the disciples were actually asking Jesus, what are the signs of your coming? And he kind of lists a lot of these. And Matthew 24:9, Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and kill you, and you'll be hated by all nations for my name's sake. You know, in the US today, that you are a domestic terrorist if you are against abortion or if you are against a microchip implant. Can you believe that? There's a really fascinating document which I downloaded years ago. I've got a copy of it at home. The Megiddo report, Project Megiddo. And in that they list who is a domestic terrorist according to the FBI. And it's this: those who believe the book of Revelation and its description of the Battle of Armageddon. So if any of you do happen to believe that, you are a domestic terrorist if you was a US citizen. End time prophecy that God will overcome the enemies of Christianity if you believe in the second coming of Christ. That the UN takeover of America will be presided over by the Antichrist, or that people will be forced to wear the mark of the beast to participate in business and commerce. You see, they do. They see Christians as a threat. We are a threat. We are a threat to the order. That's why we've got to rise up as believers, and God will give us the power that we need. He will give us the power. I mean, it's power. It's so powerful. The power of the Holy Spirit to stand against all of the demonic attacks of the devil, because this is demonic. This is coming directly from Satan. Yes, coming through those who have laid their lives down, in the same way that people can lay their lives down for Jesus and become holy and become used by him and his holiness. People can lay their lives down and surrender their lives over to Satan and can be vessels for him to bring absolute terror upon the earth. And so we are in a spiritual battle. We're in a powerful spiritual battle today. We know that the end is good. It ends very well. It ends with the second coming of Christ. And he is the only one. It's not going to be a politician. It's not going to be a politician that's going to change things. It's going to be Jesus Christ. He's going to come back and he's going to destroy it. And it talks about that in the book of Daniel. You know, this final empire will be destroyed, and it will just be, the dust will be blown away in the wind. Jesus Christ is the only answer. He is our only salvation. He's the one that we need to call out to, and he will rescue us. He will deliver us from anxiety. He will deliver us from disappointment, from anger about what is happening. We just got to call out to him. How close are we to the ending? How close are we? How close do you think we are to the end? We could be very close, couldn't we? But Jesus said we don't know the day or the hour. So that's why we've got to keep watch. Jesus said to keep watch. We don't know when it's going to happen. It could be imminently. It could be around the corner. It could be tomorrow. So what kind of lives should we live? Peter says that we should live holy lives. How can we live holy lives? We know we can't fulfill the 10 Commandments. We're going to break them. We know that. We know we're just human. How are we going to do it? It's Jesus Christ. He fulfilled all of the law. If we receive Christ into our hearts, he's going to give us the power to live this life, and we will be completely victorious over all evil. Over all evil. We've got absolutely nothing to fear. This is the incredible story of the gospel. Yes, we are in a spiritual battle, but we know that we win. It's all in that book. It's all in that book. And I do wonder whether Klaus Schwab and his lot have actually read the end. Maybe they don't want to read the end. Whether they don't believe it. Maybe they think, well, no, we've got our own plan. We'll take it. We'll take it on from there. Don't believe that bit. But it's going to end monumentally, and we can be victorious. We can be victorious. He would give us the right. Jesus said this, that he will give us the right. If we overcome, he will give us the right to sit with him on his throne. That's no small thing. He will give us the right. Can you believe that? Can you imagine for a minute sitting on the throne of Jesus Christ, sitting on his throne? Just as Christ sat down on his Father's throne, Jesus Christ gives us the right to sit down with him on his throne. Can you just imagine how powerful, the power that he's given us? The power is incredible if we overcome. If we overcome. We've got to overcome in this life. The first thing we've got to do is open the door. We've got to open the door of our hearts. Jesus said, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with him and he with me. That's a spiritual meal. Jesus is the bread of life. He wants to feed us with his life. It's not religion. It's not going to church. It's not getting all bored singing hymns. It's a real life. It's a life with Jesus. It's a life, it's a community life with one another, where we see Christ in one another. You know, the first time I met you, Wayne, I saw Christ in you, and it was like, wow, this is amazing. It's amazing, you know. This is the life. This is the life in Jesus. It's real. It's a vibrant life. It's a relationship. It's a relationship with Jesus Christ. It's a relationship with the Creator. God is not an abstract force out there. He's not some kind of cosmic being that we kind of plug ourselves into. No, he's a personal God. He's our Father. He loves us. He cares for us. He's our refuge. We just got to come to him. We just got to come to him. Jesus longs for us to come. You know, John, who prophesied a lot of this in the Bible, he describes himself as the disciple who Jesus loved. Always makes me laugh at, because obviously Jesus loved every disciple. But he felt the love. He felt the love. John heard these prophetic words from God because of his relationship with him. We can all experience the depths of this relationship. John the Apostle wasn't anybody special. He wasn't more special than us. You know, if we just come into a relationship with Christ, he would give us everything we need. And in the end, he will say these incredible words, well done, good and faithful servant. He won't say, away from me, I never knew you, because that's the other thing that he could say, I never knew you, because it's about knowing. It's about knowing him, you know. We don't expect to walk into someone's house that we don't know. Someone coming to your house for dinner, they would just say, I'm sorry, I don't know who you are. Who are you? This is exactly the same with God. So I don't know who you are. I didn't know you in this life. You didn't want to know me. I don't know who you are. What are you doing here? Away from me, I never knew you. Or, well done, good and faithful servant. And this is the most exciting time to be alive on the earth. It's the most exciting time. If we give our lives to God, he will use us in an incredible way. And I can see people in this room that God is really calling to use them in such a powerful way, to be really real truth bearers, to be real, to bring the light of the gospel of Jesus Christ, to see Satan defeated, to see Satan cast out of people. It's an amazing privilege that we've been given, that we can rebuke the devil and see him flee from people bound because they've been involved in all kinds of occult practices or whatever it might be, or you know, they've gone through a tough life and Satan has managed to get inroads into their lives. We've got a privilege that we can bring the light. It's amazing. It's amazing. And right at this time, you know, I really believe that we're living right on the edge, you know, right on the edge. God saw that we, in this room, doesn't matter what stage you're at in your belief, God saw that he trusted in us to bring the message to the people of the earth in this day. I find it amazing, you know, and who knows what might happen in the next few years. You know, maybe Jesus Christ will come, but one thing's going to happen for sure, we're all going to be standing before God. You know, we're not getting any younger. I know I'm not getting any younger. You know, we're all going to be standing before God. And what are we going to say to him when we stand before him? You know, he's got a destiny for us. He's got something for each of us to do. Unique. We're all uniquely gifted. And he wants to do that. in us. So I say this every day. I want my heart open. Jesus, come into my heart every day. So Jesus, don't let me today have the door closed. Jesus wants to come in, and he wants to come in. Let's ask God. Let's do it. Let's ask. Say, God, come into my heart, come into my life, and he will do something really radical. We've seen it so many times. Lives totally transformed by Jesus Christ. But this is a book, a fantastic message from God, and as I say, prophecy being fulfilled. We've only touched on a few things tonight, but it's absolutely incredible that it's all in here. Cashless society, big pharma, one world government, everything, depopulation. It's incredible. It's all in here. We can trust in this book. International #1 best-selling book of all time. About 7 billion copies in print, they estimate. I don't know how they can estimate that, but that's almost a copy for every person on the planet. It says something about this book. So, thank you. Thank you for listening.
Anybody got a question that you'd like to ask? Please.
There's a few different theories on what the mark of the beast will look like. What do you personally feel it will look like?
I think, well, it could be the implant under the skin, or it could be a tattoo. During the whole vaccine passport situation in Russia, you may have seen it. They actually came up with a tattoo on the wrist. I thought that was very close. I wonder whether the mark of the beast might be something very similar to the vaccine passport. But I'm open to whatever it could be. It could be a number of things. But when I was in Italy, I could feel it. I could feel that it was very obvious what was happening, and that this was part of it at least. It's definitely a lead up to it. However, it will manifest. Not entirely sure. It's going to be a mark on the head or on the hand or in the hand. Whether that's because you can get these like skin coloured tattoos as well, can't you? That you can't even see them. Maybe it'll be something like that, which might be more acceptable to some people to have something like that. But again, the World Economic Forum's talking about that. Klaus Schwab has actually said that in an interview. Chip under the skin, chip in the head. That would be within about 5 years from now. I think it was about 5 years ago that he talked about that in an interview. So it's all moving in that direction. I think that a lot of people would... The idea of it is still quite squeamish for a lot of people, but I think we just have to have another major crisis where people are just completely demoralised, and they would just do whatever they're told. This is for your safety, this is for your health, this is going to help you. And so who knows how it's going to manifest, but we've got to be strong. We've got to be strong and not... I think unfortunately the people that, went for the vaccine, that was a good test run, really. I think if it's going to be very hard, people who went for the vaccine not to go for the mark of the beast, because they'll just argue it away. Oh, it's not the mark of the beast. But yeah, who knows what it's going to look like exactly? But it could be the chip under the... That seems to be getting quite common, quite popular. There's a company, what's it called, the company now? Just launched this year in England, and you can get your chip, you can order your chip online and link it to your app on your phone and just go in and pay for your stuff. It's all very convenient, and nobody says anything about it remotely looking like a prophecy. But yeah.
Steve, you got a question?
Yeah. Well, I've got a question. If Apple brought it out, people would be probably queuing in the street for like first, if Apple brings it out, people queue in the street for the first Apple phone.
Yeah.
You can imagine everyone just...
And then you need your update a month later, so they'll all be there.
Yeah. I just wondered, in terms of like people being blindly ignorant and willfully ignorant, and then being totally on board with like what's going on. You know, in politics and things like that, I'm always quite fascinated. Like, you know, a lot of politicians, they go into it completely aware of what's going on, or are they kind of willfully ignorant? Are they blindly ignorant?
I think they are aware, because if you've got the young global leaders of the World Economic Forum, I mean, they are aware.
Liz Truss was a young.
Was she?
Yeah.
Okay.
And was she?
Yeah. So they are aware. They've got to be aware. Prior to that, maybe not so aware, maybe, but I would say now it's more obvious than ever before. So, and maybe they're so deceived they think it's a good thing. What's happening is a good thing, because they do believe in depopulation. They think it's a good thing. You know, we're like, well, this isn't a good. But for them, it's like, actually, no, we need to depopulate the earth. We need, there's too many people on the planet, and we need to sort that out. You know, they won't start with them, of course. They'll start with us.
Cars in the road, yeah.
So yeah, but I think that's the thing. We kind of, they don't think like us. You know, they don't think like us. So what is evil for us is not evil for them. It's just like, oh no, we need this. We're doing this for the common good. This is, the good will come out of this. So yeah.
I do think lockdown was the pardon the expression, the greatest bullshit detector we've ever seen on the planet. And I think it did divide the wheat from the chaff. I think it has been the greatest act of self-preservation from the churches and charity shops and anything that was there for people in need if they took the narrative. And they had nothing. There was no help, there was nothing out there for them. So they were locked down, going crazy. So in a sense, the people who manipulated this whole thing and they're drawing people in to this, they're going to reject them, because Satan's not going to take anybody. The difference between God and Satan is that he will destroy them, but God will bring us to nearer to him and will preserve us. So that's what I kind of see the world as happening.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Yeah.
How much do you think we're going to have to go through? Or do you think we'll be raptured before it gets too
I think we're going to have to go through quite a lot, actually. The early Christians had to go through everything. Chinese Christians have gone through it, going through it. Iranian Christians are going through a terrible time. I think we've really enjoyed a wonderful time of in the church, and Western civilization has been quite nice to us. And I think so. We kind of can't think that it could get bad for us. But that's the revelation that God needs to give us, that he would sustain us and keep us, even though it gets really difficult. That a lot of people, a lot of Christians, they hope for either the rapture or revival. And actually the motive behind that, for a lot of people, not everyone, but the motive behind that is like, get me out of here. I want to get out of here. But we've got a deep revelation of God as our Father. We won't want to get out of here. We want to do all we can while the ship is sinking to save lives, to rescue people, and it's exciting. I find that really exciting personally. That this is our job. This is our job.
I have a question, and it's quite a difficult question to express, really. But you talk about Jesus Christ a lot and letting Jesus into your heart, but you talk about God as at the same time, almost in the same way. But why not go direct to God? I can't think of a name for people who believe in God but don't follow Jesus Christ. But maybe there is. But why not go direct to God rather than through Jesus?
Jesus said, "No one comes to the Father except through me." We've got to come through.
But he said it. But if you just want to go direct to God, then you wouldn't really care that Jesus said that.
Why would we not want to go through Jesus?
Why would we?
Because he's the author of life. He's the way, the truth, and the life.
But God
He's the one who died for us. He's the one who died for our sin.
But God is it.
So
God is God.
Yeah, but this is how God made a way by sending Jesus Christ to the earth to die for our sin on our behalf, so we didn't have to die.
Or do die.
God became man in human flesh to die for us, to give us new life. Without Jesus Christ, we cannot connect with God.
Okay, thank you for your answer, but I don't see that.
Okay.
I mean, I do believe
Yeah.
in God,
Yeah.
and I believe that there was Jesus,
Yeah.
but to me it's direct.
Right.
But thank you.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
struggle with that one as well. And
But
it's
the
almost
concept
like
of the Trinity is hard for us to.
I grew up in a Christian household. I went to church,
Yeah.
Sunday school and church and Sunday school a lot. So I know the story, the theory, but to me it's direct to God.
almost
Question
like
of sin, isn't it?
almost like God is so pure and holy and removed from us that we can't even communicate with us. So he had to come as something we could accept and understand through Jesus, and through following Jesus' way, the way that he lived, and following the way that he said we're supposed to be, then we can become more holy and more like God. It's almost like a translator, like a middleman, because there's such a gulf between us and God, because we're in this fallen place and humanity's in this fallen state. So God had to come in a form that we could understand and could relate to, and therefore by following that path we become more holy and more like God, and that's the kind of the route back to God, if you like.
Okay, it doesn't do it for me.
No.
Thank you. It doesn't do it for me at all. I can have a relationship direct with God.
How do you have a relationship with God? How does that work?
Well, how do you have a relationship with Jesus? You know, you pray.
By following his lead and being more like him, and abandoning your sin and repenting of it.
No, sorry. No. Sin, no.
I really struggled with that concept myself for a long time, and it's only by really seeking it that I've come to even. I used to cringe at the word Jesus until a couple of years ago, even, you know. And
I don't, but I just see it differently.
Yeah.
We're all on a journey.
Indeed.
Anybody else got a question?
Can I ask Jason, and I don't know, I'm not the only person in the room who has sort of thought about this and contemplated it, and for me I think it's actually what's brought me to the path that I'm on now, reading the Bible and seeking Jesus. The notion that, so a lot of us here know each other, as you said, because we're all awake, and me myself have been sort of following the truther path for a little while, and it was a gut feeling that I had in 2020 that in fact the New World Order that was being sort of thrust in our faces, I know it seems like it's not being thrust in everybody's face, because as you say, like a lot of people are not seeing it.
Don't see it.
But it seemed to me like it was, and when you talk about Klaus Schwab being very sort of in our faces as this Bond villain,
Yeah.
and you know, obviously the book that he's written, and all of the darkness that's in our world at the moment, and I know always has been, but it's so much more apparent now in these days. And I think potentially maybe it's more apparent in the States. It's the notion that actually what we're seeing is the Great Reset and the so-called Great Awakening, because I think there has been a bit more momentum in the United States around this sort of Great Awakening, that patriots and Christians and you know are very much sort of rising up against the wokeness.
Yeah.
And so it's this notion that the Great Awakening and the Great Reset are actually two different sides of the same sort of Luciferian agenda that's playing out, and that potentially the grand deception, I'm very new to the Bible, so I've only just started reading it, so I haven't read the scripture myself that relates to this, but the notion that in fact the grand deception will in fact be the Antichrist system that comes in as a sort of you know, a pretend Christ, which will align with this idea very much in the New Age,
Yes.
and as part of the Lucis Trust and Blavatsky,
right. Yeah.
etc. That the grand deception, in fact, is this promise of the golden age, the age of
That's right.
Aquarius.
Yes.
Yeah.
That in fact
That's
is
right.
the grand deception. So, you know, we have seen much deception, of
Yeah.
course, over the
Yeah.
last 2 years.
Which is of
But
course all
that's-
promoted through the UN as well, United Nations.
Yes.
Alice Bailey and all of our occult books. With
Yes.
The, as you said, Lucis Trust.
Yeah. But I think it's just very interesting that it was a very strong gut feeling that I had in 2020.
Yeah.
That actually there's another layer to this.
Yeah.
You know, we're seeing this darkness, But in fact, this darkness is being so thrust in our faces because it's a bit like the problem reaction solution thing playing out.
Yeah.
The darkness is being very much thrust in our faces. The uprising is the fake awakening.
Yeah.
And then this antichrist system will be brought in, which is the age of Aquarius or golden age, and that in fact is what people will be begging for
That's
by
why
that
it's
point.
absolutely vital that we have to be awake to Christ,
Yeah.
not just awake.
Yes.
Because that's the thing, isn't it? To be awake to Jesus Christ, to accept Him into our lives. Otherwise, we're just going to be following the system, the one world religion, which they all worshipped. They all worship the beast. That's something we didn't cover today. But to the one world religion, and so it's absolutely vital. Otherwise, we're just going to be totally deceived. Jesus said that He came to testify to the truth, and anyone who's on the side of truth listens to me. So we're not on the side. We're not listening to Christ. We're not on the side of truth, and we're going to be sucked in by the New Age concept, the cosmic Christ, the Christ of Alice Bailey and Helena Blavatsky and all of that stuff. And it is very deceiving. David Icke, he's well into that, and people are being pulled. Because they got an element of that what they're saying on in the physical realm. There's a lot of truth there, and that is kind of connecting with people. But then there's the whole spiritual element, which is going to lead to darkness. It's going to lead them into the same place as the people that are asleep.
Yes. Yes, because those concepts and the conspiracy movement are like this.
Yeah.
Well, I think there is hope though, because I think just in the group diagram, very early doors, people were coming away from NHS, the institutions. They were being let down a lot.
Yeah.
The New Age was letting them down, and over time they're beginning to wake up to some of them to the vaccinations, having effects and linking them directly to them. So this kind of, again, there is a testing, and again there is a direct challenge to one's likelihood. It may not be to do with the world, it may not be to do with something abstract, but if they can make that direct link between the vaccine and Bell's palsy, for example, a few people have actually, who I've totally been surprised at, have actually made the link. So there is questioning going on, and there is a kind of awareness happening.
Yes.
Which is kind of counteracting their whole agenda of pushing this through.
Yes.
With mass compliance, people are upraised. Social media, which they've created, could be the Frankenstein's monster.
Yes.
And which is turning out to be because things are being revealed which would never have been revealed before. Yeah. In one way or another.
Yeah. People are awake to a level that they've never been.
That's the threat.
That's as a result. That's as a result of everything they've done. Yeah.
Yes. Because if there's truth, there's censorship.
Yeah.
And they run hand in hand.